Alright, picking right up where we left off with part 2 of the last 3 days. Nets stayed folded on the ground for now, stacked like prayers that the drone patrol would give the all clear to do anything in the water. Monsters like a juvenile Dunkleosteus or Kraken were small enough to travel in the shallows, but large enough to swallow a man whole in the case of Dunkleosteus. The Krakens are known for snatching people off the shore and dragging them to their deaths. Everybody checked their smartphones, screens often smeared with salt and thumbprints, some cracked and patched with more tape than glass, scrolling the endless feeds from ocean scanners. It was a form of faith, kinda. Sliding your trap into a place you could barely trust not to destroy it. You into a place you could barely trust not to destroy it. Toss it in, then hope for a catch. Shout curses, then, architect willing, you toasted the day, if you were lucky. Wash, rinse, repeat, over and over again in an endless loop of monotony. The docks themselves creaked as if they were alive, all wood, groaning with misery as people walked across it, but too stubborn to break most of the time. Then all clear as soon it was soon given, and a merfolk fisherman with a rainbow of pastel-colored scales covering his body, with long arms and two sets of elbows, webbed hands with 3 fingers, stout legs with 3-toed webbed feet, and long fins down their arms and backs, beady-eyed flat faces that hid 2 sharp bony plates ringing their wide mouths, not unlike that of mighty Dunkleosteus, indicating a common ancestor. He dives into the water and soon shoots back out holding a basket-like trap full of saltwater crayfish. "That was a long night, but a successful catch," he said in a gurgling tone as he walked away, reaching into the basket, pulling out one of his catches, still writhing, and throwing it into his mouth, biting down with a disgusting crunch. Zakary again cringed. "I don't think I could ever eat one of those things raw, much less alive," he thought before quickly chasing the thought away and continuing his march forward at Sirius's silent urging. Soon they passed another group of orcs having another spat, each pretending the other's haul is heavier than the other's, while an elven herbalist leaned out from her stall. Oh, I've got it saying that twice. I'm not sure how, but I do. And that's why I pay attention. All right. Doesn't say leaned out from her stall twice now. The elf was around 7 feet tall, with pale skin, long pointy ears, fair features, and long blonde hair. Her arms were full of glowing green herbs, bracing herself against the coming rush. Her goods pulsed faintly with mana tangled in their leaves, lighting her fingers like she'd stuffed them with fireflies. She smiled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth as Zachary and Cirrus passed, not to appear threatening. It's just her physiology, elves being obligate carnivores. It all mixed together, the smell of fish, low tide, neon haze, the thick scent of ozone, sweat, and resin. And you just knew, despite its flaws, Tedela was alive. Not out of habit, but ultimately out of sheer bloody-minded refusal to give up. Shudders began to drag themselves up so slowly you'd swear they'd been drinking. Smart glass blinking from too fogged up to see through in fits and starts, until with a tiny creak, the piece of shit vial locks finally gave in. The whole process might as well have been a weather report, cloudy with a chance of at being stuck the fuck inside the house until the grid holds. Inside, you could feel the city finally stretching awake, all bleary eyed and reluctant. Some families barely made a peep. gliding around each other, all whispers and care not to wake up yesterday's shadows. But holy crap, props to those single moms, already hard at work like it was mid afternoon, snapping shut bento boxes with one hand and hammering out desperate texts to clients with thumbs that move faster than light, with the other praying their battered uplinks held up just long enough for payday to come. The air in those early hours smelled like salt, diesel, and soy mostly, with just enough ocean to let you forget how recycled it all was. You could taste someone's attempts at baking bread. A new baker, likely. Flour, water, salt, and oil. Always fucking oil. Faint and a little burnt. There was something else, though, crowding out the flavor. The collective promise around these parts not to fuck with each other's scars. Spoken or not, every household had its skeletons in the closet. Out on a porch, a gnomish kid cracked up laughing so hard as his rusty wind-up robot was staging an epic journey across the peeling planks, legs twitching stiffly. Up above, a Felix girl in mismatched pajamas balanced along a windowsill, acting like gravity was just a rumor. She was yelling some taunts down at the laughing gnome boy before being yanked back out into the window by her mother, with the practiced efficiency of someone who's done it over and over again, trying to keep the stubborn little girl from going splorch on the ground. And under all that, almost like a barely there hum, behind the rustle and the squeaks, a merfolk woman sang, tending to a garden of barely hanging on flowers. Not even a real melody, just stray notes, really. And she was just really fucking off key, slipping through the tang of tide and the whiff of used grease, spinning every little thing together into a weirdly comforting knot. Dreams? Forget it. Dreams seldom go anywhere just because Doriel showed up. Kids would measure their futures in wild ass currency, skyboard racing, monster hunts, some golden ticket or another one to get them and their families out of this dump for good. You could see it right in their faces, those moments when they glanced up, still believing in the possibility of more. Adults were much less poetic, just aiming for one quiet morning when the debt collectors didn't blow up their phones before breakfast. Hope as a trade was more or less out of stock in this town, but Starrise kept barging in, day after day, like it never got the memo. Raw, blazing, bloody looking, beautiful to some, and totally uninterested in what these people wanted. Somewhere, standing on a stoop, a human boy whirled a battered wooden sword through the air, carving through invisible monster after invisible monster, breath puffing in tiny clouds like he was the last defender on the block. A knot of elves hustled by, their arms loaded with what looked like half the library, their voices clipped so low, almost tripping over each other in a rush to share some secret revelation. By the curb, a grease-streaked dwarf mumbled a not-so-confident prayer before leaning on the front end of his car. You could tell he was more hopeful in miracles than maintenance manuals. And through it all, the town held its breath, definitely not waiting for some miracle rescue. Outside of Relamia, Tedila's reputation wasn't exactly sterling. In fact, any time something horrible happened in the world, Tedila's Adventurers Guild would come to provide relief, and like clockwork, they'd be blamed for the whole event by the deeply corrupt central government located in Camus, the fortress city in the craggy mountains of the western continent of Arula. Truth be told, the people of Tedila held on or that one decent morning for just one, why did I type like that? One decent morning for one decent morning? Autism. I'll fix it later. Shit shit wouldn't go fucking sideways, and everyone would pretend even just for a second that the world wasn't such a shithole. A group of farmers from Freyborn rolled in on their clunky cart pulled by a pair of aurochs. 6 humans total. 3 men with farmer's tans, 2 women, likewise tanned, and a little girl of about 8 with long brown hair, rare violet eyes. Ali and Cass. Alian sees Zachary and Cirrus and calls out to Zachary, smiling and widely waving. Zachary looked up and smiled back, nodding his head, but couldn't wave. At this point, Cirrus had taken the lead, and Zachary, may I reiterate, 10 fucking years old, but trying his best to walk like he was twice that. He trails after his dad as the farmer half follows them down the promenade. The boards under his boots howled in protest every few feet. Zachary does his best to play it cool, but inside his heart is pounding, like it's about to burst through his chest cavity in a spray of gore. He'd never call it fear. He was way too damn old for that. Whatever it was, I personally call it trepidation. It curls tight in his stomach, makes his feet extra careful. This wasn't a stroll. Zachary was almost stalking behind Cirrus, tense as a stretched spring, eyes darting from alley to alley, and half-dead drone hubs crammed between leaning buildings. Nothing out here felt safe, far from it. But backing down in front of Cirrus, no chance in hell. The knife on his belt was a joke. It was almost like lugging a brick with a sharpened edge, heavy, awkward, as if the weight of it tells the world just how unready he is. If something did come clawing out from behind a crate, he's got no illusions that he wouldn't freeze in that instance. Both of them knew it. He had before. And it almost cost him dearly. Cirrus, his father, seems to read all that with just one sideways glance, but hell naturally says absolutely nothing. Sometimes Zachary just wish he'd say something, absolutely anything. But that right there, Cirrus Sevendust doesn't operate like that. And in that moment, a wave crashes in, soaking that section of the promenade, and Zachary. While Cirrus deftly dodges the swell, Zachary spits out salt water, totally soaked from head to toe. As if to add insult to injury, another smaller wave crashes into the side, spraying him with salt, making his skin sting, while splinters threaten to bite if he stumbles. Even the air was tense, wind spinning, hitting bitter gaps through the railing. Every single sound is sharp and loud. Even the Freyborn cart, now comfortably behind them, its wheels shrieked. Someone's voice echoing like treble up ahead, or that weird headache-inducing buzz of a dying uplink. It felt like every single noise was trying to tell him something, and none of it was any good. Now, in spite of being soaked, Zachary still matches his father's stride anyway, water dripping from his clothing and hair. He didn't need to. He wanted to. There was comfort in it, matching step for step, like perhaps if he copies Cirrus closely enough, he'll pick up some of the iron the seasoned monster hunter carried in his bones. To Zachary, Cirrus was more than just his father. He was a living bulwark, known to the world as Death's Shadow. But to the Tetala Adventurers Guild, he was a Platinum 5, the highest rank without being the Guildmaster. But in reality, he was a renegade. But Guildmaster Brannigan Voss tolerated this because their interests usually aligned. Doubt, a storm, even the fucking ocean wouldn't dare lay a hand on him. Though it had, you know what I mean. Getting soaked is way different from being eaten by a shark. Alright, that's another good stopping point. See y'all next time with part 3 of the last 3 days.